Okay, thanks everybody. Welcome to the Planning Development Committee for April 9th, 2024. Attendance has been taken, noted that Jennifer Kyle and David Miller are online today, counselors, and we haven't heard from Robert Chambers yet. So attendance has been taken, and we can. So we need approval for the agenda. Do we have a mover or a seconder? Moved by Councillor Pierce, seconded by Mayor Bailey. Is there any additions to the agenda tonight? Councillor Miller.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one item, very short item under other business, item 12. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor of approval of the agenda as amended? Anybody against? It is passed. Okay. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, if you do have one in the future, please let us know. We have one delegation today, and we'll ask them to come forward now. If you could give us your name and your address, and you'll have 10 minutes to speak.
Close. Okay, thank you. Shirley Steedman, 12 Lillian Street, St. George. I'm here tonight representing the St. George residents for Safe Technology. Specifically, I'm here concerning the article reported on the March 12th, 24 planning meeting as printed in the St. George Lance. This article noted your revamped protocol draft should be ready in May 24. Our observations of the meeting. Pertaining to the Scenic Drive application, you are quoted as being concerned about a few surrounding residents who had objected. Councillor Bell is quoted as saying, the other time in St. George, we're putting a tower on non-compliant area. Yet here we are, we got the tower land and we've got the freedom to say no. Councillor Chambers said, in light of the fact it doesn't meet the protocol, and in view of the public comments, I'm not sure this application should go forward. I think we would do the right thing to say we don't want it on county-owned land. Councillor Bell is noted as saying, I think we should take a step back, look at the science, take credit for massive factors of safety, and make things simpler for ourselves, simpler for people who put up towers, and give clarity to residents. How is this supposed to make St. George feel? Do you remember our episode? For this Scenic Drive application, the Planning Committee decided to defer this matter until a rewrite of the new protocol, the correct decision to make. Too bad it wasn't done in St. George. Follow the rules. That's all you're paid to do. We pay your salary. Councillor Bell was quoted as not knowing the science, so how can you lower the distance in your protocol and tell us it's safe? If anything, the radiation will be just as strong, if not more. Our closest resident to our project is 38 meters from this tower. 38 meters. Would you want to live 38 meters from that tower? I doubt it. And then, of course, there's the 700 plus signatures we had on our petition that was totally ignored. And yet, Scenic Drive has a couple of people complaining. Doesn't make sense. Councillor Chambers has been trustworthy to follow protocol. Also, Councillor Pierce and Mayor Bailey. However, I can't say that about the rest of you. I really can't. We're especially disappointed in the Ward 1 representatives who threw St. George under the bus. Totally. Total disregard, most of all for the people they represent and the 700 people who signed our petition. And they did it in an underhanded manner. We're quite aware of the phone calls and the personal contacts made prior to the council vote. So you're not kidding anyone. So how does this give clarity to us in St. George? Or does it mean you're just going to change the rules to suit your application and your situation? So regarding multiple emitters, our tower is going up with 3+ proponents approved to do wireless broadcasts. Others were still in the application process, as stated by Shared Towers Inc. at the county meeting of November 28th. Nowhere in that protocol of yours are any of them included in the application process, nor are they responsible for the EMS they are transmitting. Doesn't that strike you odd? It's not good enough to reference Safety Code 6 that it is big in many areas, but my question is why? You have some cleaning up to do. Has the multiple emitters situation been addressed in the revision? These are questions you need to take a look at. Do you have a maximum of emissions permitted by each? And if there's 10 emitters and we get 10 times the emission, and that is okay? And if there's excessively high emissions, who's going to handle this? Who's going to monitor it? Where do we go? Who do we talk to? Will there be public input into the revision? I ask you. Radiation emitted readings. We are using the highest professional broadband emission meter. We are concerned about the safety of our residents. As a result, we have been taking radiation readings around town prior to the tower going up and being activated. Radiation readings. We had 2 done in March. Water tower area were extreme on both March 19th and March 24th. Extreme. Daycare, high and extreme, but moderate, so that changed. Arena, moderate and high, Fresh Mart, extreme, and then moderate. Mayor's House, extreme on both occasions. Seniors Apartments, high on both occasions. St. George Hardware, moderate and high. Library, high, extreme. Sunnyside Drive at Patton Drive, extreme on both occasions. Windsor Drive at 62, extreme at both occasions. That's across from the water tower. 86 Victor Boulevard, high and high. So we already have a problem. Regarding the revised communication tower and communication antenna preferred location protocol, we understand the document has been revised. How might our committee obtain a copy to review? This is our asks. We respectfully request to have the opportunity to review the revised protocol before activating the document. We would like you to investigate the dangerously high emissions in the area of the water tower. And as we continue to take our readings around St. George, I'm sure we'll be visiting you again. Thank you for your time.
Can I ask the committee how they would like to handle the presentation today? Councillor Oakley?
To receive as information.
Do we have a seconder by Councillor Bell? Thank you very much. My understanding is that the Tower Communication Protocol review will be coming to committee next month. So if you leave your contact information at the door there, then we can make sure that you've received that notice when that comes out. It's fully available to all the public for comment at that point. So All those in favor of receiving? Okay. Anybody opposed? It is passed. Councillor Chambers.
Mr. Chairman, my apologies for arriving a few moments late. I'm just wondering if the delegation can make available the in writing. I don't know whether that was available at the start of the meeting or not, but it would be, I think, incumbent upon us to receive it and have it on hand rather than try to remember everything that was said.
Is that possible, Shirley? Okay. Okay. Well, appreciate that. Okay. So we have the adoption of the minutes for the Planning and Development Committee minutes of March the 12th, 2024. Do we have a mover? Moved by Mayor Bailey, seconded by Councillor Oakley. All those in favor? Okay, that is passed. Business arising from the minutes. Is there anything arising from the minutes? Okay. We have now the public hearing under the Planning Act to receive information from the public. ZPA 3-24 ES RPT 026224 640 644 Oak Park Road, Emily Souza. And if we do have a recommendation there to receive, do we have a mover for that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Pierce, second by Councillor Coleman. Emily, if you would like to speak to that.
Show me how to. Okay, good evening, members of the Planning and Development Committee. This evening I will be presenting zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 3-24-ES for 640/644 Oak Park Road from Cheryl Waldick and Eileen Lane in the geographic township of Paris. Today's presentation is for information purposes only. The subject lands are located east of Oak Park Road and south of Paris Road. The property is surrounded by employment and agricultural land uses and surrounds a small cluster of low-density rural residential development that is at the intersection at Oak Park Road and Paris Road. These subject lands are designated general commercial within the County of Brant official plan, as well as zoned site-specific rural residential, or R-9, in the County of Brant zoning bylaw. The site-specific zoning permits an oversized accessory structure. So this minor zoning bylaw amendment application is required as a condition of approval for a lot line adjustment application, specifically B27-23-HH, that was approved by the Committee of Adjustment in 2023. The applicant is looking to rezone the lands from site-specific rural residential to just rural residential to remove the permissions for the oversized accessory structure on the lands to be conveyed to the neighboring parcel as part of the lot line adjustment. To date, no comments have been received as part of the public circulation. As mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, this presentation is only for public information purposes as required under the Planning Act, and a recommendation will be presented by staff to council next month. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for the planner today? Pretty straightforward. Thanks very much. The applicant is present. Would you like to speak at this point, or is it just leave it with the presentation? Okay. Thanks very much. At this point, I am going to open the floor to the public. If there is anyone that wishes to speak to this application at this point, the public meeting is now open. I'm going to ask a second time if there's anybody from the public who wishes to speak to this application. Okay. And I will ask a third time if there's anybody who would like to speak to this application. Okay, seeing nobody at this point with interest in speaking, we'll close the public portion of this meeting. Is there any further questions from the council? Councilor Chambers.
Just through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm wondering if planning staff or yourself perhaps could just indicate when in the process the applicant will have a chance to respond to the staff recommendation. Where does that occur in the process?
Matt, would you like to answer that?
Through the chair, the applicant would have an opportunity to register as a delegation at the next PDC meeting, but it would be through the planning council meeting. I believe that would be the second meeting. So tonight we heard an information presentation. It will come back in May with a recommendation report, and that'll go to planning council. And at that time, the applicant will have an opportunity to speak to it and register as a delegation.
So just so I'm clear, and just so the applicants are clear, their opportunity to respond to these staff recommendations do not occur when the staff makes the report. The input from the applicant would be as a delegation prior to the report, if that's what I understand the process.
Yes, through the chair, that's correct. That's how it stands today. Thank you.
And I believe there was some direction at some point to review that to see if that is gives the applicants the proper avenue to respond. And I'll leave that with staff.
Is there any further questions from the council? Okay. We do have a motion. It's been moved and seconded. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is passed to receive. Okay, our second application tonight is ZBA 26-23SL RPT 02502491 Brant School Road. And Emily, if you'd like to speak to that tonight. Oh, first, can we have a motion from the council to okay, moved by Councillor Pierce and second by Councillor Oakley. Okay. Okay, Emily, when you're prepared, go ahead.
This evening, I will be presenting zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 26-23-ES for 91 Brant School Road from Arcadis, care of Douglas Stewart on behalf of Arnold, Heidi, and Kurt Winter in the geographic township of Brantford. Today's presentation is for information purposes only. Subject lands are located southwest of Brant School Road and north of Old Onondaga Road East. The property is surrounded by agricultural and natural heritage land uses and surrounds a small cluster of low-density rural residential development along Brant School Road. Abutting the lands to the southwest is an auto recycling facility. The total site area is approximately 72.5 hectares, with frontages split into sections across Brant School Road. The existing subject site is currently farmed as part of a larger farming operation. Subject lands are designated as agriculture, rural residential, and natural heritage under the County of Brant official plan and are zoned as agriculture, natural heritage, and natural heritage within the zoning bylaw. The northeastern corner of the property is currently designated rural residential and zoned agricultural under the current official plan and zoning bylaw. The applicant wishes to rezone this portion of the lands, it's approximately just under 1 hectare, from agricultural to rural residential to implement the direction of the current official plan to sever the existing dwelling from the rest of the agricultural parcel. A future consent application would be required if the zoning bylaw amendment is approved for the severing of the existing dwelling from the rest of the land to be retained as part of the agricultural area. Please note that should the severance be approved, a future dwelling may be permitted to be constructed on the agricultural parcel. To date, no comments have been received as part of the public circulation. As mentioned at the beginning of this presentation is for public information purposes only, as required under the Planning Act. A recommendation will be presented by staff to council next month. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for the planner tonight? Okay, thanks, Emily. If there's any further, is the applicant available to speak? Oh, Councilor Miller, sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Three to Emily. Emily, can you just explain to us why the severed parcel there is almost 2.5 acres?
Yes, so through the chair to Councillor Miller, the severed parcel or to be severed is in terms of where the servicing is located, where the dwelling is located, as well as where the official plan designation stretches across the parcel. They are permitted to rezone that in accordance with the rural residential zone, and sever is part of that. It's just where the official plan designation lies.
Is there a follow-up? You're on mute, Dave.
Yeah, I'm just surprised. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just surprised we're looking at one lot, not two, because it's a big parcel of land. That's all. Thank you for your answer.
So through the chair, I can actually follow up with that. The original proposal that was brought forward to staff did look at 2 lots. Unfortunately, part of the property is within a floodplain, and we couldn't secure safe access to a second lot. And so the proposal was scaled back in order just to retain the existing dwelling and sever that. The applicant is, or the agent is in the room and could perhaps speak more to that should council have any questions.
Councillor Cobb.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Through you to Emily. Emily, did I catch that right, that you said the remaining agricultural parcel would be allowed to build a residence on it? And if that is the case, if I heard that correctly, what is different about this one as opposed to some of the other properties where they've severed off a surplus dwelling and that then sterilizes that land as A9?
Through the chair, that's a great question. So with this case, in this specific scenario, the applicants have the benefit that the property has 3 different designations on the property. So the rural residential designation, which is what would be subject to a future severance should their zoning be approved, is what would allow them to sever and keep that existing dwelling. Because the rest of the property is agricultural, they would be permitted to put 1 single detached dwelling in accordance with the zoning. And this is different from what we view as surplus farm dwelling severances within the county, where the entire property is designated as agricultural. And should, subject to criteria, an applicant be successful in severing that dwelling. Under that type of application, under the provincial policy statement, we are required to essentially sterilize the retained lands to prevent them from putting an additional dwelling, severing that in the future, and so on.
Follow-up? Okay, thanks. Councillor Bell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Emily. If that remaining parcel does have a property on it, how would you access it?
Through the chair to Councillor Bell, to access the farm parcel, you mean?
Yeah.
Yep. So there is a portion of the property. Just looking at my screen here, we've identified access to the northern part of the property. It is quite irregularly shaped. So there is a part towards the north where there looks like a separate parcel. There is a triangular piece kind of cutting out in the middle of that. Just to the south of that, we've identified that as an appropriate location to put an additional access should a house go there in the future.
Sorry, maybe I'm just not understanding it. Through you, Mr. Chair, it looks like it would go through natural heritage land. Is that acceptable? Allowable?
Through the chair, and according to my mapping, at the south of that agricultural parcel or piece that's triangular in shape, to the south of that is zoned and designated agricultural. In terms of any natural heritage considerations, I mean, there would be the GRCA, there would be environmental planning considerations that would need to be addressed as part of that. But at this time, this is where we have identified the access to go.
Thank you.
Is there any further questions? Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation, Emily. If we could call the applicant to come forward.
I wonder if I could begin as introduced. I'm Douglas Stewart. I'm with Arcadis. I'm here representing the Winter family. So I'll keep my presentation as short since staff have gone over things. The request is for an amendment to the zoning. I'll outline the rationale. We'll outline what the next step is, the outcome, and I'll respond if there's some questions, although we appreciate what staff have responded. So I think the important part to remember here is this is a request to implement the approved official plan. The official plan has established that on this property, a portion is designated and contemplated for rural residential. The official plan contemplates that the majority of the parcel would be from an agricultural perspective. And the third component, based on the natural environment, there's a natural heritage designation. What is being requested is a bylaw amendment to implement the boundary of the approved official plan and retain the remaining part from an agricultural point of view with a natural heritage. There is a refinement of the natural heritage, and there is no change to the agricultural being proposed. We have had pre-submission. We have modified the request based on the comments we received through the pre-submission consultation. We appreciate all the effort conservation staff have provided and county staff have provided. What's the justification? So the council has approved an official plan. It expects that it will be implemented by private individuals, and council will make a decision based on that official plan. As outlined and shown on the figure, there's a portion of this property that has a designation that supports single detached residential. There would be a future severance of an existing building, existing house, existing septic system, existing access, and existing well. We have done additional study to define where the estimated flood line is. Conservation staff provided that to us, and through effort, we've defined where that boundary is, which does make minor adjustments to the official plan designation and to the heritage. The principle being natural heritage is excluded from where the proposed residential parcel would be established. Again, no changes to the agricultural designation. What this sketch does provide is where the existing residence is, where the septic system is, and where the two wells are. They are excluded from the natural heritage area and would be excluded from an agricultural perspective. Staff are correct in that the initial request was to create a second vacant residential parcel, but through the technical review, that could not be supported, and thus is not being requested. I do hope that this sketch will explain where the potential new residential could be located on the agricultural parcel. First, it is in an area designated agricultural. It is excluded and outside of any natural heritage feature. The location provides for safe access. The location minimizes the agricultural impact for a new detached house. That's a future decision that would be dealt with after this amendment to the bylaw is approved, the consent is approved, and whatever conditions are implemented. We appreciate that staff have helped give direction to how this application should be handled. I want to advise that one of the requests of staff was to do an agricultural assessment through the minimum distance separation. That study was performed and reached the conclusion that there's no minimum distance separation impact. I'm here to answer any additional questions that council may have, and as well, my contact information is there should the public wish to speak to me. I thank you on behalf of the Winter family, and we look forward to the next step. Thank you.
Do we have some questions for the applicant? I don't see any questions, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I'll open up the public meeting at this point. If there is anybody that would like to receive any further information about this application, please sign the documents at the back. I will open up to the floor for any comments or questions. First time. I'm going to open it to the second time to the floor for anybody who would like to come and speak to this application. And I will open to the floor a third time for anybody who would like to speak to this application. Okay. Seeing nobody here to speak to this application, we'll close this portion of the public meeting. And is there any further questions to the speakers, the agent of the applicant at this point, before we call the question? Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I know this property, and I guess to me, this is bad planning that happened in the past, in my opinion. It started in the middle of the property, and they're working either way. So down the future, I don't know how many more could be coming off this property. That's what my concern is.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to comment? We'll note that. Okay. Is there any further questions or comments? And we'll call the question. All those in favor to receive? Okay. All those opposed? Okay. The motion is passed. Thank you. There's nothing under the public hearings under the Planning Act to consider for staff recommendations. We have no consent items. And so we'll move on to staff reports. So staff report tonight is RPT 026524, temporary resident policy fee waiver request. Matt Vaughn, would you like to speak? You can if you wish.
Thank you very much. Through the chair, I've provided a report to the committee for review and consideration. There is no formal presentation. Just that we have recently developed a new policy framework where an owner would like to demolish a house and rebuild a new one. You would be familiar with, council had recently approved this new policy a couple months ago. Unfortunately, this particular applicant was in between the old policy, the new policy, so staff are recommending that their fees be waived just to help them proceed forward. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Is there any questions? Councilor Chambers.
I'm prepared to move the recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Councilor Chambers and second by Councilor Bailey. And Mayor Bailey. Is there any further comments or questions? Okay, we have a motion that's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Okay, that and those opposed? Okay, the motion is passed. Thank you, Matt, for your presentation. We have no communication. Under other business, David Miller had some, I believe.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just want to point out that the Six Nations had an information session there a couple of weeks ago, and a few of us attended. I know the mayor was there and Councilor Kyle. It was actually a good session. I learned a lot. But what was interesting is I thought it would just be the city and the county there, but no, they had invited they invited representatives from municipalities all up and down the Grand River. And during one of the presentations, they made note of the fact that there was only one municipality of all those municipalities up and down the Grand River that actually require First Nations consulting in their planning applications, and that municipality is Brant. So I was quite proud that they had singled us out for that. I thought that was good. So just wanted to bring that to the planning committee's attention.
Thank you very much, Dave. Is there any other comments? Councilor Chambers.
Not on that particular issue, if I might, Mr. Chairman. If anybody wants to comment on that, I don't want to interject. Mr. Chairman, I was just, and I don't mean to circle back, but with regard to the presentation that was made earlier, there was an issue with regard to radiation readings, and we kind of went over top of that. And I'm just wondering if staff could make note of that and perhaps make some kind of report back to council with regard to these radiation readings. I'm not an expert, but I would be concerned if there is something going on there, and I think we owe it to the residents to at least check into that. So could I expect a report back with regard to the radiation readings at some point?
Through the chair, we will be providing a report and a new protocol next month. We'll be sure to include information on what we can find on that in that report.
Okay. Oh, Councilor Miller. You're on mute. Okay. Okay, thanks very much. Okay, if there's nothing else under other business, there's no in camera, so our next meeting will be April 9th, 2024. That's wrong. That's today's. May 14th. May 14th, 2024. Okay, thanks very much.